Imagine for a moment you're standing right at the edge of a really daunting challenge.
Okay.
Maybe it's some complex new project at work that feels, totally overwhelming. Or
Uh-huh.
maybe it's a skill you've always wanted to learn, but deep down, you kind of worry you just don't have the quote natural talent for it.
Mm.
Perhaps it's even a personal setback, something that makes you question your core capabilities. What's your immediate, like, gut level
Yeah.
reaction inside?
Yeah. What's that first thought?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Do you feel judged? Like your basic ability is on trial, and failure would expose some fundamental flaw?
Right.
Or does a spark of curiosity ignite? Maybe a bit of excitement, seeing it as an interesting puzzle, a genuine chance to learn and grow.
That's a really interesting way to frame it.
Today, we are diving deep into this powerful, often invisible force that shapes these reactions, and honestly, so much more. The concept of mindsets. We're talking about the fundamental beliefs we hold about our own abilities and, yeah, those of others too. These aren't just passing thoughts, they're like deeply ingrained views that can either push us forward,
Mm.
unlock amazing potential,
Or really hold us back.
or just as powerfully, rigidly hold us back from even, trying in the first place.
And our deep dive today, it's grounded in some really extensive research, particularly around what are called the fixed mindset versus the growth mindset.
Right.
And these aren't just like abstract academic ideas, they are incredibly practical frameworks. They show how our views influence our potential for success, our resilience when things get tough.
Yeah, how we bounce back.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And our capacity for lifelong development, really across every part of life careers, relationships, even how we parent.
So, our mission today is pretty clear.
Mhm.
We want to help you really get these two powerful mindsets, explore their um, far reaching implications,
Yeah, what they actually mean day to day.
and most importantly, figure out how you can intentionally cultivate a growth mindset. This isn't just theory, it's meant to be a shortcut, maybe, to understanding yourself better
Mhm.
and actively shaping your future, leading to a richer, more courageous, and, well, more open life. Let's unpack this.
Sounds good.
So, where did this whole idea even start? Our journey into mindsets actually began with a fascinating, almost accidental discovery during some early research.
Yeah, the origin story is quite interesting.
Picture this: a young psychologist, really focused on understanding how people cope with failure, watching a group of 10-year-olds tackling a series of puzzles.
Okay.
Now, the first few puzzles, pretty easy, right? Designed to build confidence. But then came the really tough ones.
Oh, one's designed to challenge them.
Exactly. The kids grunted, they perspired, they, worked hard.
Mm.
And the researchers watching carefully, looking at their strategies, asking about their thoughts, expecting, I guess, to see clear differences in how they coped with the difficulty.
Makes sense. You'd expect some frustration, maybe some giving up.
Right. But here's the surprising bit. Some of these kids, when they hit those difficult problems, they didn't get discouraged at all.
Mhm.
They didn't shrink back.
Oh.
Instead, they actually got excited. I mean, one 10-year-old boy apparently literally pulled up his chair, rubbed his hands together, and said, I love a challenge.
Wow, okay. That's not what you'd necessarily predict.
Not at all. He didn't see the hard puzzle as some kind of judgment on his intelligence. He saw it as a chance to learn, a puzzle to figure out. It's almost like the difficulty sparked joy, not dread.
And what's truly fascinating there is how that single unexpected observation really became the spark. It led to formally defining these two distinct mindsets.
Oh, okay.
That gut reaction to a tough task revealed a profound difference in how those kids saw their own abilities. It wasn't just about how smart they were, it was about their underlying belief about intelligence itself.
Right. Their fundamental assumption.
Precisely.
Hmm.
And this difference, this fundamental split in how we view our capabilities, it really colors everything that follows.
That makes so much sense. So, based on those kids, what's the core difference we're talking about here? Can you nail down the main belief driving each group?
Well, the first one is what we call the fixed mindset. The core belief here is that your fundamental qualities, things like intelligence, talent, even personality,
Mm-hmm.
they're essentially fixed traits.
Set in stone, kind of.
Pretty much. You're born with a certain amount, you either have it or you don't. It's like this static inventory of your strengths and weaknesses that you can't really change much.
Okay, and if you're operating from that belief, the implications must be huge. What does that mean for how you approach, well, everything?
It creates this constant, almost desperate need to prove yourself. Think about it. If your intelligence is fixed, then every success just validates that inherent ability you supposedly have.
Okay.
But failure,
Mm.
failure reveals a deep fundamental lack of that ability. So naturally, there's an intense fear of making mistakes, of facing challenges that might expose those perceived inadequacies.
Right, because it reflects badly on your fixed self.
Exactly. And ironically, effort itself can start to look like a sign of low ability. I mean, if you're truly talented, shouldn't things just come easily? Why would you need to try so hard?
Huh. Yeah, that's a twisted logic,
Yeah.
but I can see how it works.
To use an analogy, imagine your abilities were like a beautifully carved statue. It might be impressive, sure, but it's fundamentally unchangeable.
You can admire it, but you can't reshape it.
Precisely. The focus becomes solely on demonstrating what is, proving the statue is good.
Wow. Okay, that's a powerful image. So, if that's the fixed mindset, the statue,
Mhm.
what's the alternative? The other kids.
Right. In contrast, we have the growth mindset.
Mm.
This operates from a profoundly different core belief that qualities like intelligence, talent, and your capabilities are not static.
Okay.
Instead, they can be developed through dedication, through hard work, learning, experience. It's not that some people are just born brilliant and others aren't. It's that brilliance, or any skill really, is something you cultivate.
That feels much more hopeful.
It's incredibly liberating. The implications are huge. You see a genuine love of learning emerge. Challenges aren't threats anymore. They're exciting opportunities to grow, to expand what you can do.
So, setbacks don't crush you.
Exactly. Resilience in the face of setbacks becomes more natural because a stumble isn't a judgment on your core worth. It's just information, something to learn from,
Okay.
and effort. Effort isn't a badge of shame, it's valued as the very path to mastery. It's how you get good.
So, if the fixed mindset sees a statue, the growth mindset, sticking with the analogy, sees abilities more like a muscle.
That's a perfect analogy, like a muscle. The
No.
more you work it, the more consistently you train it, the stronger, more capable, and more refined it becomes.
That really drives the point home.
Hmm.
And scientifically, this fits much better with what we now understand about human development, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Modern science tells us it's not this rigid nature or nurture thing. It's a constant dynamic give and take between the two. You know, the neuroscientist Gilbert Gottlieb pointed out that genes don't just predetermine things, they actually require input from the environment to work properly.
Interesting.
And our brains, we now know, have way more capacity for lifelong learning and development than we ever thought before. Robert Sternberg, who's a major figure in intelligence research, he says the key factor in achieving expertise isn't some fixed starting ability.
It's not about raw talent.
Not primarily, it's about purposeful engagement. So, yeah, it's often not the people who start out the smartest who end up the smartest. It's about how you engage with the process of learning and development.
That's fascinating because when we think about true potential, our fixed mindset often whispers that it's inherent, something you're born with, an initial spark that sets your ceiling.
That's the common assumption.
But if we actually look at the lives of incredibly accomplished people, we often see a totally different story. Like, did you know Charles Darwin and Leo Tolstoy were both considered pretty ordinary kids?
Really, no early signs of genius.
Apparently not. Or Ben Hogan, one of the all time great golfers,
Wow.
described as completely uncoordinated, graceless as a child.
Uh,
Cindy Sherman, a top artist. She actually failed her first photography course.
Failed it. Wow.
Yeah. And Geraldine Page, a great actress, was apparently advised early on to just give up acting.
What these stories powerfully illustrate is that true potential is unknown and unknowable. It's just impossible to predict what someone can achieve with years of passion, hard work, and dedicated training.
They weren't just born with it.
Not at all. These aren't people who started with some obvious, unbeatable advantage. They're individuals who cultivated their abilities through persistent effort and a deep commitment to learning.
It makes you think.
It really does.
Yeah.
When you think about your own so-called natural talents or those perceived limits that might be holding you back,
Yeah.
how might these stories challenge your own assumptions about what you're truly capable of?
Yeah.
It encourages you to question those snap judgments, both about yourself and about other people too.
Exploring this, I kept noticing this pattern, this constant need to prove yourself that comes with the fixed mindset. What are some of the biggest pitfalls people fall into there?
Well, the core danger is that relentless and often really unfulfilling race of constant proving.
Right.
If you've managed to prove you're smart or talented once, that internal fixed mindset voice might say, okay, done. Why keep proving it? It's like that fairy tale prince who slays one dragon and then lives happily ever after.
Life isn't like that.
Not at all. In the real world, new and bigger dragons challenges always show up. The ability you proved yesterday might not cut it for today's task.
Like going from algebra to calculus.
Exactly. Or maybe you were a great pitcher in the minor leagues, but stepping up to the majors. That demands a whole new level of skill, mental toughness.
Yeah,
So people with a fixed mindset can find themselves stuck in this loop, constantly trying to validate their ability again and again without necessarily finding real satisfaction or, importantly, continuous growth.
that makes sense. It's like you said, a treadmill.
Yeah.
Chasing validation. And this must mean that failure, when it inevitably happens,
Yeah.
it becomes much more than just a setback,
Oh,
right?
absolutely. It's catastrophic. In a fixed mindset, failure isn't just an action, something that happened. It gets transformed into an identity.
Oof.
It's no longer I failed, it becomes I am a failure. And that internal shift makes every setback feel devastating, like it reveals some permanent inherent flaw in who you are.
That sounds incredibly damaging. Can you give us an example of how that actually plays out for someone?
Sure, think about Sandy's story from Colombia. Her parents had groomed her basically her whole life with one goal: get into Harvard.
Wow, intense pressure.
Totally. For them, her education wasn't about the joy of learning or, pursuing her love of science. It was solely about getting the label of intelligence that came with that Harvard acceptance letter.
So the outcome was everything.
Everything.
Yeah.
And when she didn't get in, she just collapsed. Debilitating depression. Her academic record before that, indistinguishable from her peers who did get in. But after this perceived failure, it became completely erratic. A plus S in some classes, F's in others.
Because her self-worth was tied to that one thing.
Exactly. It was so completely tied to that single outcome, that one label, that when it didn't happen, her entire identity just seemed to crumble. That's the real danger of tying your value to external validation instead of focusing on internal growth.
It's so clear how a single evaluation can just define you forever in that mindset.
Yeah.
It reminds me too of the author's own story, avoiding spelling bees or French competitions because she was good at them and couldn't stand the thought of going from being a winner to maybe being a loser.
Mm-hmm. That fear of losing the label.
Yeah. Or just think about all those college rejection letters that go out every April. They can instantly transform brilliant young people into the girl who didn't get into Princeton, defining them by that one outcome. It's such a heavy burden.
It absolutely is. And it leads to this pattern of magnifying your successes and kind of explaining away or ignoring your failures, all to protect that perceived fixed trait, even if it means distorting your own self knowledge in the process.
It's like wearing armor,
It is, it's a defensive posture.
right?
And ultimately, it really limits learning.
And it's not just personal, is it? Society often seems to reinforce this. Malcolm Gladwell observed how we tend to value natural, effortless accomplishment more than achievement that clearly comes from hard graft.
Oh, definitely. We love the myth of the prodigy, don't we?
Totally. Midori just pops out of the womb playing the violin. Michael Jordan is effortlessly dribbling. Picasso's just doodling masterpieces. This image, this effortless perfection, it perfectly captures the fixed mindset ideal.
It's everywhere. This expectation that if you're really talented, it shouldn't look like you're struggling. And it's quite damaging. There was a report from Duke University, for example, that raised alarms about anxiety and depression among female undergrads. They felt intense pressure to display perfect beauty, perfect womanhood, and perfect scholarship, all without trying.
Or at least without appearing to try.
Exactly. That appearance is key. A French executive, Pierre Chevalier, even said something like, "We are not a nation of effort," suggesting that true savoir faire, that blend of know how and cool, should be effortless.
Wow.
This whole worldview reinforces the idea that effort is, well, kind of for people who lack talent. And that leads to a diminished zest for challenge, a reluctance to really push yourself.
It makes you wonder, have you ever felt that pressure yourself? To make something look easy even when you poured everything into it?
Yeah.
What does this ideal of effortless achievement really cost us in terms of genuine growth, satisfaction?
That's a great question. And I think, yeah, many of us can relate to that pressure. And this special, superior, entitled thing, it really gets amplified in the corporate world, too. Well, there was this trend highlighted by firms like McKinsey promoting a talent mindset. The core idea was that corporate success requires naturals, people just born with business smarts.
Like spotting innate talent in sports.
Exactly. You identify these supposed innate talents, spare no expense recruiting them, thinking they're your secret weapon. But the problem is, this approach often fosters a really fixed mindset within the leaders themselves.
Ah, so they start believing their own hype.
That's where the real danger lies. These leaders, believing in their own inherent superior talent, often create this magic realm around themselves where their brilliance is constantly validated.
Surrounded by yes men.
Often, yeah, they surround themselves with flatterers. They avoid any news that might challenge their perceived perfection. And this makes it incredibly risky for anyone to confront weaknesses or deliver bad news. It leads to what some people call CEO disease.
Yeah, that sounds bad. Can you give us some examples of how this actually plays out with specific leaders?
Certainly. Take John McEnroe, the tennis player. He openly admitted having a fixed mindset, believing talent was everything. He didn't love to learn. And by his own admission, when things got tough, he often folded, didn't fulfill his potential.
But he was number one for years, right?
Oh, yeah, his talent was immense. Number one for 4 years. And he reveled in the entitlement that came with it. There's a story where he screamed at his agent because the sawdust on a court wasn't right, calling it rat poison, making the agent pay a worker to grind up a new batch.
Seriously.
Yeah, and he even recounted throwing up on a dignified Japanese host, only for her to bow, apologize to him, and give him a gift. That's entitlement born from a fixed mindset where the world exists to validate your specialness.
Wow. And so it's not just sports stars, right?
Hmm.
This happens in the boardroom too.
Dramatically.
Yeah.
Think about Lee Iacocca. After he was fired from Ford, his time leading Chrysler became less about genuine innovation and more about proving his personal greatness, getting back at Ford.
So it's personal.
It seems so. He spent years focusing not on long term car design or manufacturing improvements, but on buffing his public image, boosting short term stock prices, things that made him look good.
Mhm.
He fired critics, ignored workers, lived this regal lifestyle. And even after Chrysler basically pushed him out, he joined a hostile takeover bid against them. It really suggested his ego came way before the company's well being.
A classic case of that self validation cycle.
Exactly. These leaders get more concerned with appearing brilliant than actually being effective or, crucially, fostering growth in their organizations. It's a direct and often very dangerous consequence of the fixed mindset in leadership. They become insulated, arrogant, and ultimately less effective at driving real, sustainable success.
And this fixed mindset, it seeps right into our personal lives too, doesn't it? Especially relationships.
Oh, absolutely. In relationships, the fixed mindset often shows up as this belief in instant, perfect, and perpetual compatibility.
The meant to be idea.
Exactly. That a relationship is either meant to be or it's not. Like a fairy tale ending where everything just clicks effortlessly forever, no bumps, no disagreements.
Which sounds nice, but probably not realistic.
Not at all. And this belief creates two huge problems. First, there's the idea that if you have to work at it, it wasn't meant to be.
Ah, yeah.
This expectation that everything good should just happen automatically is incredibly destructive. Take Charlene and Max, for example. They had this intense initial connection, felt like they just got each other immediately.
The honeymoon phase.
Totally. But then Max's moodiness, which was just part of who he was, started showing up more. Charlene wanted to talk about it. Max wanted to be left alone when he was moody. She felt shut out. He felt disappointed. She didn't just understand him without talking.
So neither tried to bridge the gap.
Neither worked on developing communication skills around it. They saw the friction as a sign it wasn't meant to be, instead of seeing it as, a problem to solve together. Relationship experts like Aaron Beck and John Gottman say that belief, if we need to work at it, something seriously wrong, is one of the most destructive beliefs a couple can hold.
Because every relationship needs work.
Every single successful, lasting relationship requires work and dedication, period.
Okay, so that turns normal human challenges into signs of doom. What's the second big problem this mindset creates in relationships?
The second issue is the tendency to blame fixed traits and also to engage in subtle or sometimes not so subtle competition within the relationship.
Blaming personalities instead of situations.
Exactly. Think about Brenda and Jack. Brenda's telling a story Jack finds boring. Internally, Jack's labeling her. Brenda is boring. And maybe she's sensing his reaction and thinking Jack is selfish, the actual problem. Communication, maybe timing, maybe different interests. But in a fixed mindset, it instantly becomes about fixed personality flaws.
That sounds exhausting.
Hmm,
And competitive.
yeah. Consider Cynthia, the scientist. Whenever her partners had a skill or interest, say, acting or cooking, she felt compelled to jump into their field and excel at it, often surpassing them.
Why? To prove she could.
It seemed like it, but it drove her partners away. They felt outshone, like they lost their own identity in the relationship. She needed to equal or beat them in everything they brought to the table. That's not support, that's competition.
Wow. It's so easy to fall into that trap, isn't it?
Yeah.
Thinking about your own close relationships. Do you ever catch yourself labeling problems as fixed personality flaws in your partner instead of seeing them as maybe chances to grow or communicate better?
It definitely makes you reconsider how you frame disagreements, doesn't it?
It really does. Okay, now let's shift gears. Let's talk about the much more liberating perspective of the growth mindset. How it cultivates ability, builds resilience. This is where things really start to open up.
Yes, this is the positive side.
For instance, remember those studies tracking kids into junior high, where the work gets harder, the teaching less personal?
Hmm.
Fixed mindset students' grades tended to decline significantly, but the growth mindset students, their grades actually increased.
Increased despite the harder work.
Yeah, they saw the difficulty as a signal to learn more, to dig in, not as a judgment on their fixed intelligence. That's a massive difference in outcome.
That's a crucial distinction. For people with a growth mindset, embracing challenges and learning from failure isn't just some nice saying, it's truly a way of life.
Can you give an example?
Think about Christopher Reeve. After his riding accident, neck broken, spinal cord severed, completely paralyzed, medical science basically told him, so sorry, you need to come to terms with this.
That's devastating.
Absolutely. But Reeve's question was, why couldn't he learn to move again? He started this incredibly demanding exercise program, not out of denial, but with a growth mindset, believing in the possibility of new neural connections forming.
Against all odds, really.
Totally. And 5 years later, he started to regain movement in parts of his body. His mindset literally pushed him beyond what the doctors thought was possible.
Wow, that's an incredible story of resilience. It shows that even when faced with what seems like a totally fixed, unchangeable reality, that growth mindset can open doors to possibilities nobody else even saw.
Indeed. And another powerful example, maybe less extreme, but just as telling, is Jim Marshall, the former NFL player.
Okay.
In one game, he famously scooped up a fumble and ran for a touchdown, but he ran the wrong way, scored for the opposition on national television.
Oh my gosh, I remember hearing about that. Mortifying.
He said it was the most devastating moment of his life. Overpowering shame. But crucially, he didn't let it define him. It didn't become, I am the guy who ran the wrong way. For him, it was a problem to be faced, dealt with, learned from, not an identity.
He moved past it.
He did. And you see this in studies too, like with chemistry students, the ones with a growth mindset. They maintained high interest even when the work got really tough. They actually became more determined, not discouraged.
So failure still hurts, presumably.
Oh, yeah, the pain of failure is still there. Growth mindset doesn't mean you don't feel setbacks, but it doesn't define you. It's just feedback, an opportunity to maybe apply more effort or try different strategies next time.
This idea of effort keeps coming up. It seems so central to the growth mindset.
It absolutely is.
For people operating with this perspective, effort isn't a sign of weakness, right? Or lack of natural talent. Instead, effort is what ignites that ability and turns it into accomplishment. It's the fuel.
Precisely. It transforms potential into actual mastery. But like we said, we so often fall for that myth of the effortless genius.
We do. But it's often just that a myth.
It really is. When you look closely at many people we think of as naturals, you almost always find incredible dedication and hard work behind the scenes. Take Thomas Edison.
The light bulb guy. Genius, right?
We picture him as this almost mythological genius, but his biographer, Paul Israel, suggests he was a relatively ordinary kid for his time. What really set him apart, his mindset and his drive, he never stopped asking why. He constantly experimented.
So he wasn't just born a genius.
His relentless effort made him one, you could argue.
And Muhammad Ali,
Yeah.
widely seen as one of the greatest boxers ever. You mentioned him before.
Right. He actually failed traditional fighter measurements. His physique wasn't considered ideal. He supposedly boxed all wrong by the standards of the time. Didn't block punches right, punched in rallies like an amateur, kept his jaw exposed.
So he wasn't the natural.
His opponent, Sonny Liston, he was considered the natural powerhouse. Yet Ali's brain was always in perfect working condition.
How did he win then?
Brilliant strategy and psychological warfare. He said, Liston had to believe that I was crazy, that I was capable of doing anything. He used his mind, his strategy, his will to overcome Liston's perceived natural advantages.
Amazing. What about Michael Jordan? Surely he was a natural.
Arguably the greatest basketball player ever, right? He was cut from his high school varsity team.
No way. Michael Jordan got cut.
Yes, cut. But he didn't let that define him. He famously said he used that failure as motivation. He constantly worked on his weaknesses, his defense, ball handling, shooting. His college coach was amazed by his willingness to work harder than anyone else.
Even when he was famous.
Especially then, even at the height of his fame, he was legendary for his intense practice. A former Bulls coach called him a genius who constantly wants to upgrade his genius. He never rested on his laurels.
It's incredible how these stories just dismantle that idea of talent being purely innate. It's such a powerful reminder that true expertise isn't some mythical, effortless birthright.
Not at all.
It's about, like you said, purposeful engagement, relentless practice, and just a deep belief that effort itself is maybe the greatest talent we have. Their journeys, from ordinary to extraordinary, they feel like a blueprint for all of us.
Absolutely. These individuals weren't superheroes born totally different from us. They were, in many ways, relatively ordinary people who made themselves extraordinary. And honestly, to me, that's far more amazing and inspiring than any myth of effortless genius.
Yeah, it feels more achievable somehow.
It's empowering. It shows the profound impact of diligent work and the right mindset.
And this growth mindset, it also profoundly shapes leadership, doesn't it? You mentioned Jim Collins's good to great research earlier.
Yes, the level 5 leaders.
Right, these leaders who transformed companies into long-term successes, they weren't the flashy, ego-driven types.
No, quite the opposite. They were often self effacing, humble individuals who constantly asked questions. They were willing to confront the brutal facts, even their own mistakes and failures.
But they kept the faith.
Exactly. While maintaining this unwavering faith that they would ultimately succeed, they perfectly embody the growth mindset in how they lead.
It sounds like a shift away from the leader needing to be the smartest person in the room.
Totally. It's a shift from wanting to be the only big fish in the pond,
Yeah.
focusing on your own promotion and image, to being deeply concerned with developing your employees, fostering a learning culture throughout the entire organization.
Because the company grows when the people grow.
Precisely. They understand that fundamental connection.
Can you give us some examples of these growth-minded leaders in action?
Sure, Lou Gerstner is a great one. He was an avowed growth mindsetter, brought in to turn around IBM back in the late 80s, early 90s.
IBM was struggling then.
Big time. It had become this smug, elitist culture, lots of internal turf wars, not enough focus on the customer. Wall Street was basically sneering at Gerstner, calling him a failure as the stock price stayed flat for a while.
Tough start.
Very. But Gerstner didn't just focus on quick fixes, he fundamentally overhauled IBM's culture and policies, emphasizing learning, adaptability, customer focus. And just a few years later, IBM was leading its field again. He wasn't focused on proving his genius. He was focused on transforming the organization through growth.
That's a really stark contrast to the fixed mindset leaders like Ayakaka we talked about earlier.
It really is. Another great example is Jack Welch, the legendary CEO of GE. There's a story from early in his career when he was a young engineer. He caused a chemical explosion that literally blew the roof off the building he was in.
Whoa. He must have thought he was finished.
He was emotionally shaken, drove 100 miles to headquarters expecting the worst. But the way his boss handled it, it was understanding and supportive. His boss focused on what could be learned.
That's incredible.
Welch never forgot it. And that experience deeply shaped his own leadership style later on. He became known as a guide, not a judge. He focused on selecting people for their mindset, their willingness to learn and grow, not just their fancy pedigree. He realized his job was to help good people learn from their mistakes, fostering growth instead of just punishing perceived failures.
That takes real confidence, both in yourself and in your people. And this growth mindset, it's just as transformative in relationships, isn't it?
Absolutely. In the growth perspective, the understanding is that all you, your partner, and the relationship itself are capable of growth and change.
So it moves away from that meant to be trap.
Completely. It moves away from looking for instant, perfect compatibility and towards seeing the relationship as a dynamic process of mutual development. It's about building something together, not just finding a finished product.
Which means problems aren't deal breakers necessarily.
Right. It means seeing problems not as signs of fixed personality flaws, he's just selfish, he's just neurotic, but as communication issues or areas where you can both learn and develop together.
Can you give an example?
Think about Laura and James. Laura could apparently be quite self centered, defensive, quick to yell, but James, her partner, never took it personally. He learned to calmly help her talk things through instead of escalating. And over time, she actually learned to skip the yelling and pouting.
So they worked on it together.
Yes. And crucially, they became really invested in each other's development. He'd discuss his business plans with her, get her input, and she pursued her dream of writing children's books with his active encouragement and even help making connections. That's a relationship where partners actively foster each other's growth. Problems get addressed with this shared commitment to developing together.
That's a wonderful example of building something stronger over time. And it really highlights how choosing a growth mindset can even help mend or deepen bonds that already exist, maybe ones that are struggling.
Exactly. Another really powerful illustration comes from the author's own life, her relationship with her mother. After years of bitterness stemming from things in childhood, the author made a conscious choice
To do what?
to step forward, to seek understanding, to try and learn about her mother's perspective rather than just clinging to blame and resentment.
That must have been hard, risky.
Incredibly risky, risking rejection, more hurt. But that seemingly simple act of choosing growth, choosing understanding over being right, led to this profound 25-year period of closer connection and mutual growth. It transformed a difficult, painful relationship into one filled with life and understanding before her mother passed away.
Wow.
It really underscores the idea that a no effort relationship is basically a doomed one. A great relationship isn't one without problems, it's one where they commit to working happily ever after.
Working through things, not avoiding them.
Exactly. Seeing problems as communication issues to solve together, not fixed personality flaws to condemn each other for.
That's such a powerful shift, moving from judgment to understanding and growth.
Yeah.
And this growth mindset, it also has huge implications for how we parent and educate, right?
Uh,
There was that crucial finding you mentioned.
Yes, this is critical. Praising children's intelligence, saying you're so smart, actually harms their motivation and performance in the long run.
That sounds so counterintuitive. Don't we want to build their confidence?
We do, but praising intelligence sends the wrong message. It implies intelligence is a fixed trait they possess, making them afraid to risk looking not smart. Instead, praising their effort, their strategies, their persistence that helps them thrive.
So focus on the process, not the trait.
Exactly. It's a really critical point for parents and educators. Remember Elizabeth, the
Yeah,
gymnast?
the one whose father gave her tough feedback.
Right. After she lost a competition because the scoring changed, her dad didn't just say, "Oh, you're the best anyway," or "You were robbed." He told her honestly that she hadn't earned it yet under those rules. And if she wanted to excel, more work, different work was needed.
That sounds harsh, maybe.
It might sound harsh initially, but think about the message. He conveyed his belief in her potential to improve through effort. She took it to heart, spent way more time repeating and refining her skills, and improved significantly. It contrasts sharply with parents who constantly reassure kids about their fixed intelligence, which inadvertently raises the stakes and makes them more afraid of showing any deficiency.
So constructive criticism, focused on process, is actually helpful.
It's vital. Withholding it to supposedly protect a child's confidence actually harms their future. They learn to fear feedback instead of seeing it as valuable information for growth.
It's about giving them tools for self improvement, not just empty platitudes.
Precisely. Consider the amazing Marva Collins. She taught kids in inner city Chicago schools who had been labeled learning disabled, retarded, emotionally disturbed, total write offs by the system.
Okay.
She treated them like geniuses from day one, required 4 year olds to be reading by Christmas, had 7 year olds reading the Wall Street Journal. Her older kids were discussing Plato and Shakespeare.
How? What was her secret?
She famously said, "There is no magic here. I just love children and work harder than a lot of people, and so will you." She fostered this intense love of learning and hammered home the understanding that effort leads to mastery. She completely reframed their potential by demanding growth.
Wow. That's incredible.
And then there's that Brainology program, an 8 session workshop that explicitly teaches students how their brain works, how it forms new connections, and literally grows stronger with practice and learning.
So they learn the science behind the growth mindset.
Exactly. And the results? After the workshop, these students showed a significant jump in their grades. They started talking about their neurons growing bigger, applying concepts like long term memory to how they studied. It unleashed their brain power by making them believe in their brain's capacity for growth and giving them strategies.
It demystifies it.
Yes. Great teachers, great parents, they believe in growth, and they're fascinated by the learning process itself. They focus on teaching, not judging. This approach, shown by Collins and Brainology, proves that cultivating a growth mindset in education can profoundly impact not just grades, but a child's lifelong love of learning.
Okay, so after hearing all of this, the benefits of growth, the pitfalls of fix, you might be
Yeah.
thinking, this sounds great, but are these mindsets just part of my personality? Can I actually change something that feels so deeply ingrained?
That's the $1 million question, isn't it?
And the reassuring answer is yes. Mindsets are definitely an important part of your personality, but they are absolutely not permanent. They can be changed.
That's hopeful.
In fact, just knowing about the two mindsets, really understanding them like we've been discussing, that alone can start a profound shift. It allows you to start noticing your own patterns, thinking and reacting in new ways.
Like awareness is the first step.
Exactly. It's a bit like that movie Groundhog Day. Remember Phil Connors? Initially, he's stuck in this time loop, totally fixed mindset, using his knowledge just for selfish gain, manipulating people.
Total fixed mindset behavior.
But eventually, he shifts. He starts using that same repeating day to actually learn things piano, ice sculpting, and to help others. He embraces growth, and that transforms his experience, lets him connect, and ultimately breaks the cycle.
That's a great analogy. It's not about just picking up a few clever tricks or, reciting positive affirmations.
Right? It's deeper than that.
It's about a more fundamental shift in your core belief. Once you truly grasp deep down that your abilities aren't static like that statue, but are more like muscles you can strengthen, it changes everything. People often report they start catching themselves when they're falling into a fixed mindset pattern.
Like they notice it happening.
Yeah, passing up a chance to learn something new because they're afraid they won't be good at it, feeling labeled by a failure, getting discouraged when something requires a lot of effort. And then, crucially, they realize they can consciously switch themselves into a growth mindset.
They can choose differently.
Exactly. Make sure they take the challenge, learn from the failure, or keep going with the effort.
Okay, so how do we actually do that? How do you actively cultivate this growth mindset? It sounds like a journey, maybe not an overnight switch.
It is a journey, and there are some clear steps that can guide you. 4 key steps, really.
All right, let's break them down. Step one.
Step one, hear your fixed mindset voice. This is all about awareness. Becoming aware of that internal monologue that judges, that labels, that fears failure.
The voice that says, I'm not good enough, or this is too hard, I'll look stupid if I try.
Precisely. You need to recognize it when it pops up. Maybe even give it a name, like my inner critic or whatever works. Really tune into its presence because you can't change what you don't even acknowledge is there.
Okay, makes sense. Hear the voice. Step two.
Step two, recognize you have a choice. This is crucial. Once you hear that fixed mindset voice piping up, you have to consciously realize you are not beholden to it. You don't have to obey it.
You're not its puppet.
Exactly. You have a choice in how you interpret the situation and how you respond. You can choose to listen to that limiting, judging voice,
Mm.
or you can choose a different path, a growth path. This is a real moment of empowerment, realizing you have agency over your internal narrative.
Right. I hear the voice. I realize I don't have to believe it with step three.
Step three, talk back with a growth mindset voice. This is where you get active. You consciously counter those fixed mindset thoughts with constructive, learning oriented alternatives.
Give me an example.
Okay, so instead of thinking, ugh, I'm so clumsy, I just spilled all these nails, your fixed voice might say. The growth mindset voice talks back with something like, okay, the nail spilled. Annoying, but I'll pick them up. Maybe next time I'll organize my workbench better first. See the difference?
Yeah, it's practical, forward looking, not self blaming.
Exactly. Or if you're agonizing over a breakup, the fixed voice might say, I'm a terrible person for ending this. The growth voice could counter with, you know what? I gave that relationship everything I could at the time. It didn't work out, and maybe moving on is right. I've learned a lot about what I need and what I can offer in a partnership going forward.
It reframes it as learning, not just failure.
Hmm.
Okay, that's powerful. Hear it, choose, talk back. What's the final step? Step four.
Step four, take action and educate your fixed mindset persona. Talking back is good, but action is key. This is about living the growth mindset.
How do you do that?
Develop concrete, growth oriented plans. Don't just think about changing. Commit to specific actions like Tonight, after the dishes are done, I will talk to my wife about that thing that's bothering me, focusing on how we can make things happier. Or tomorrow morning, first thing, I'll sit down and start outlining that report I've been dreading, and I'll focus on what I can learn from the research process.
Make it real.
Make it real. Actively seek out constructive criticism, not just praise or people who tell you you're great. Look honestly at things you perceive as past failures and ask, okay, what did I really learn from that? How can I use that experience as a foundation for growth now?
Turn setbacks into stepping stones.
Precisely. And then make plans to actually do some of those things you've always wanted to do but feared you weren't good enough at. Take that class, try that hobby, and maybe most importantly, integrate this into daily life, especially if you have kids. Regularly ask them and yourself, what did you learn today? What mistake taught you something interesting? What did you try really hard at?
Shifting the family focus from judgment to process and learning.
Exactly. That's how you educate that fixed mindset part of you through consistent action and reframing.
It's interesting. Many people seem to fear that if they embrace this growth mindset, they'll somehow lose their edge or their specialness. They worry about becoming, I don't know, just a bland cog in the wheel like everyone else.
Yeah, that's a common fear, isn't it? That growth means mediocrity.
But the truth seems to be the exact opposite, right? Opening yourself up to growth actually makes you more yourself, not less. Think about all the growth oriented scientists, artists, athletes, CEOs we've talked about. They weren't some kind of humanoids just going through the motions.
Not at all.
They were people in the full flower of their individuality, their potency, their passion. It seems like growth leads to more authenticity, not conformity.
Precisely. The growth mindset also fosters compassion. When you understand your own struggles with learning and effort, it helps you understand and appreciate the struggles of others too. It empowers individuals. Remember those brainology students? They got excited about their brain's capacity to grow and make new connections. It wasn't scary, it was enabling.
Yeah.
So, this journey, it really isn't just about personal achievement, hitting goals. It's about building deeply satisfying relationships, becoming a more effective and inspiring leader or parent, and actively fostering growth in the people around you.
It's like that quarterback example.
Exactly. The number one draft choice quarterback who, instead of pretending he had all the answers, fixed mindset, was vulnerable. He actively sought guidance from his veteran teammates, admitting things were different and harder than college.
And how did they react?
They didn't judge him. They shared their own embarrassing rookie stories. They taught him their techniques. He realized he was part of an organization that wanted to help him grow, not just judge his immediate performance. He traded that constricting suit of armor of perceived specialness.
Which cuts you off.
Right, it cuts you off from genuine connection and learning. He traded it for the freedom of continuous development and authentic teamwork.
That's a great image,
Yeah.
replacing the armor with connection.
hmm
So, as we wrap up this deep dive, we've really explored the profound impact of these mindsets. We've seen how that fixed mindset can lead to a lifetime of just proving yourself, this paralyzing fear of challenges, and a tendency to blame everyone or everything else when things go wrong.
Yeah, that limiting view.
But we've also witnessed the immense, truly transformative power of the growth mindset, how it fuels resilience, how it cultivates a genuine love of learning, and how it unlocks the ability to achieve far beyond what we might perceive as our natural limits in every single part of life.
From our work to our families to just how we see ourselves.
Exactly. The choice, at the end of the day, it's really yours. Will you look back on your life and say, it could have been? Polishing those unused endowments like trophies on a shelf, admiring your innate gifts that maybe never fully blossomed because you were afraid to risk them.
Hmm.
Or will you look back with that deep satisfaction of saying, you know what? I gave my all for the things I truly valued. Knowing you embraced every challenge, every stumble as an opportunity to learn, to grow, and to really become the person you hope to be.
That's the core choice, isn't it? Prove or improve.
It really is. So, to leave you with a thought for the week, something to maybe mull over, think about something you've always wanted to achieve, maybe big or small, but you felt held back by that nagging belief that you just weren't good enough or you didn't have the natural talent.
Mhm.
What single small concrete action could you take this week, viewing it through a pure growth mindset lens, just to begin that journey of learning and development? Not to prove anything to anyone,
Mhm.
but simply to grow.